The gift of Troy is a fabulous fabric from the land of the five rivers.
Years ago, when we came to Los Angeles, I really believed that the greatness of the Raiders would be in its future.
Man, for another edition, man. Hey, look, the Raiders on a bye week. I was on a bye week. I think everybody was on a bye week last week, man. When the Raiders are not playing, everybody's like, I don't even think I watched any games. I'm lying. I did watch like a couple of games. But yeah, man, appreciate everybody coming through, man. We got a lot to talk about. The Raiders are gonna be back this week. They're gonna be playing the Vikings. But before we even get into that, man, I got a lot to talk about, and I got my guy, Severe Raider, in the building, so I'm not going to let him wait any longer. What's good, Severe? What's going on?
What's good, man? The Raiders, the bye week came at a good time for them, man. And we've got a lot to discuss.
Yeah, no doubt. And one of the main things we want to talk about is the offseason up until this point. And obviously, we want to look at, like, the moves, Antonio Pierce, Champ Kelly, head coaching candidates, OC candidates, because everybody's talking about, like, all right, who's going to be the next coach for the Raiders? Obviously, there's a lot of games left, so it's going to be enough time to talk about that. But what happens if we do keep Antonio Pierce, and who would be the next? In my opinion, I think that OC position needs to be possibly upgraded, and we'll get into the chat. We'll talk to everybody about it. But let's get into let's actually get into the chat, man. I just hopped in, wanted to talk about football, but let's see who's in the chat. My guy Jay Mills says, bring them both, Gruden and Harbaugh, both very knowledgeable at their craft. Gruden as a manager and Harbaugh as a coach. So, hey, man, Gruden as a manager, I don't know baseball. I don't know.
As a
You
manager
said
or
general
what?
manager. Oh, he's trying to say a general manager. I'm thinking that's what he's trying to say. Gruden as a general manager.
John Gruden as general manager.
Hey, bro.
Man, look.
Come on, Jay. Come on, man. This is elite.
As Cody Tang would say, I got to say the Nano on that one, right?
Man, that's elite level trolling right there. I think you trolling right now. Man. Come on. Gruden as a general manager with all those missed draft picks. Come on now.
Man, exactly.
And then, obviously, Jim Harbaugh, that's two A1 personalities. Like, it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
It wouldn't work. But
definitely wouldn't work.
My guy Fabian in the building, man. He says Raider Nation. He just keeps it simple, just like that. And I'm gonna give him a Raider chant. Appreciate you coming through. Appreciate you coming through, my guy Fabian. Raider Resistance, my guy Digital Prez making my rare appearance once again. Hey, my God, I'm gonna give you a chant, man. coming through and support, man. This guy is killing it.
His appearance is going from rare to medium rare, man. They ain't
Hey, but you know
rare no
what?
more.
Hey,
Like
respect though. He makes his rare appearance once a week on the live,
facts,
man. So he comes. Hey, man, appreciate
facts,
it.
facts,
Appreciate it.
facts.
Yeah, hot to Mikey in the building. Glad to catch a live. Yeah, I know it's been a minute. Hey, like I
Yeah.
said, the Raiders were on a bye week and I was on a bye week. I'm not gonna lie, but they're back this week. They're gonna be playing the Vikings, and we'll probably talk a little bit about them. But today's mostly, I just want to get into like, me and Severe. We're talking, behind the scenes. We're like, hey, man, we should talk about, does Antonio Pierce deserve to take the interim tag off his position as a head coach right now?
Mm,
And I'm like, you know what? Let's save that for the live, man. Let's talk to the people. Let's talk to the nation and have that
exactly.
conversation. Let's have that conversation. Dodgers, everything, I got you. I got you. Oh man, we got two big time Raider content creators over here. The
Man.
Raider room in the building.
Shout out.
Y'all need to go to RaiderRoom.com and Raider IG. Check them out. Dude's one of the big time content creators. Man, we got content creators coming through. This is the content creator live right now. Hey,
For
Raiders
sure,
Elite is
man.
manager. He said manager
Yeah,
in and out.
bro.
Hey, man, this dude got jokes, man, for days. He said manager in and out. Come on, man. But hey, I agree for sure. Manager in and out, no doubt. Like
Yeah,
general manager for the Raiders. Come on, man. Hey, but we appreciate the comedy, Jay Mills. He started off, with some comedy. That I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
uh,
Oh, our mods, man. One of my go-to, my Daniel Kim, man. He said, "Salute, Pharaoh. Salute." I got you, man. I got you, man. I got you. Salute, Pharaoh. Salute, Severe, man. But you know what? Let's get into it, man. My mod is here. My guys here in the building. So we got to start off now. We got to start the conversation, and the conversation starts with the offseason and the moves and the state of the Raiders. Pretty much up until this point, it's been a bye week. Antonio Pierce and the Raiders team they finally have a chance to breathe. I mean, like I said this last week, I'm like I don't ever remember a bye week being this late in the season for the Raiders. Usually it's like a little bit earlier, like at least at the latest, probably like midway point.
yeah,
So it's kind
yeah,
of strange that it's this late. But let's get into the free agency, the free agent pickups, some of the moves that the Raiders have like picked up and how they
yeah,
worked out. And let's talk about that.
yeah, man. We because of how poorly we've drafted recently, thanks to General Manager John Gruden, we've kind of had to backfill a lot of the roster with free
GM.
agency. We had to backfill a lot of the roster, like like at key positions we're free agents. Whether that be last year with Chandler Jones, whether it be this year with Jimmy Garoppolo, whether it be this year
Mm-hmm.
with Jacoby Myers, Austin Hooper, like all these guys, Robert Spillane, Marcus Peters, Marcus Epps. Like we've had to fill a lot of key positions with free agents. And thus far, man, the free agent class that was brought in by the previous regime has been extremely underwhelming. Save for a few bright spots, man, they have really, really missed the mark. And that's what's really hurting this team. I mean, the poor drafting that put us in this position, but then the poor free agency signings that kind of kept us in a bad position. And you know, we really have to do a lot better in the draft. That way, we won't have to depend so much on free agency. And really, free agency should really just to be like that should be like the icing on the cake. And really, right now, free agency like is our cake and our icing and the sprinkles and the cherry. Like pretty much our whole team, for the most part, is built on free agents, man. And that's not where you want to be as a franchise.
So right now I'm kind of showing everybody like some of the free agent signings. This is not like the best list. I got this from I forgot where I got like Raiders.com. But
Yeah.
But some of the guys, let's start with like Robert Spillane. You know what I mean? I think that's probably our best free agent pickup up until this point. Man, I was kind of surprised. You called it out. You said that you called it out. You thought that was a great signing at the time.
Yeah,
I didn't know it was
yeah,
going to be this good. Like he wasn't known as a coverage linebacker, and I felt like that was pretty much. I feel like that was a big need for the Raiders. A guy that can, make plays in the pass defense as a linebacker. And I
yeah.
don't think that was a strength coming in, but hey, he's having a
No, it's not.
career year for sure.
No, no, definitely, definitely. And the thing that stuck out to me about Robert Spillane is when, I spoke about this previously when we picked him up. I know a lot of people weren't very happy about that particular signing, or it was kind of like a mess signing. That it was, like milquetoast to them. But I like the signing just because, you know, the Steelers had drafted not Michael, but Devin Bush fairly high, and they brought in Miles Jack, who was a former draft pick that was drafted fairly high, and Robert Spillane had basically supplanted both of those guys and was pretty much playing every snap on defense and was playing special teams. And that was on the team that was coached by Mike Tomlin on a linebacker core that was being coached by Brian Flores. So you got two of the best defensive minds in the NFL saying, we trust you wholeheartedly to never come off the field as a linebacker for a
Hmm.
Steelers team that is known for having good linebacker play. So for them to have that type of trust in him, I kind of knew that, hey, you know what, this is a guy that's going to be capable of at least being like, a C plus B minus type player. I think he's been like more like a B plus type player. And I think that is a guy who I'm happy. I think he's locked up for multiple years, and I think he's a guy that going into next year.
Yeah, but early on though, let's be honest. Like for me, at first I was kind of like, man, Spillane need to know how to wrap up. I felt like a lot of players were breaking tackles.
Yeah,
He would be there. He'll hit him in the backfield,
yeah,
but for some reason, he just had a hard time wrapping up. But he just got better as the season went on, and I felt like he made a lot of plays in the past game. Obviously, we know the interceptions that he made. He almost had a pick, I think, the last game
yeah,
against Mahomes. I think he almost had a pick too as well.
yeah,
So the guy
yeah,
he's just around the ball right now. Now he's playing with a lot of confidence, and they, like you said, they trust him a lot. His head coach is a former linebacker, so like I'm sure he's pretty much in his ear all the time. So Spillane, and they signed him to a 2-year deal, and it's a cheap contract. So I like it. You gotta hit on some of these picks, but you can't build your team through free agency. While we go through this list, the next guy on the list is we don't see him on the screen, but Marcus Peters. And Marcus Peters wasn't signed in the first wave of free agency. He wasn't signed in the second wave of free agency. He was signed during training camp. So
yeah,
he's a guy like for me, it I was excited about because I'm like, hey, you know what? You got a ball hawk cornerback who's known to make plays on the ball, and the Raiders have struggled to intercept the ball. Like, I don't know, I forgot they were like one of the league worst teams as far as
yeah.
forcing turnovers, especially getting interceptions. So I felt
Especially,
like, yeah, I thought it was like a high reward, low risk, high reward move. In my opinion, you're signing a guy in free agency. Obviously, it didn't work out. But what's your thoughts on Marcus Peters?
see, thing with Marcus Peters is, I personally, I did not think Marcus Peters would make the team. I thought they would, rather go with a more youth at the position than having Marcus Peters there. Now, I guess I underestimated how young they were really willing to go, especially considering that Tyler Hall is a young player. Nate Hobbs is a very young player. Ja'Cory Bennett is a rookie. So, Sam Webb is second year guy as well. The only other veteran they really had was Brandon Facyson. And I think that there's a possibility that if Brandon Facyson was healthy, Marcus Peters doesn't make this team. Marcus Peters is one of those signings it's all sizzle and no steak, I believe is the saying. It's flashy. It's a big name, but at the end of the day, he's not a guy the game didn't match the name at this stage in his career, and I think that kind of showed and proved throughout the year. He started out early on, dropping interceptions. Uh, and then he was just consistently getting beat in coverage. Not really a presence at all in terms of wrapping up the ball carrier. So it's like, you can't be out there making business decisions, when you kind of on your last leg. And we would want it to be a high risk, high reward, low risk type guy, but that only is the case if you have like another plan in place. And since basically Marcus Peters was our only plan at the cornerback position, opposite of Jacorian, I think it turned out to be, high risk and very, very low reward. And he subsequently has been cut due to his poor play and his poor attitude.
Man, yeah. I mean, it's kind of messed up that it ended this way because I know he grew up a Raider fan.
Yeah,
He's close to with Marshawn Lynch. He's from the area. He's from Oakland, so I know that it might. But you know what? It's gonna be interesting because as time goes on, the players are gonna talk. So he's gonna probably
facts.
say how it all transpired because it's kind of interesting. Like him and like I think Pierce had like that conversation on the sideline. And then, like,
Yeah,
Pierce said, "Oh, I had a great conversation with them during the game, after the game." So I want to hear from. It's always good to hear another perspective, and I want to hear from Marcus Peters. But yeah, it just didn't work out. At the end of the day, like the dude, he wasn't tackling anybody. Coverage wise, he was literally giving like 20 yards space for every receiver. You got to be able to
man,
change it up. Yeah, yeah.
man,
As sometimes you gotta give some receivers space. But you also got to be up there to. Man, like you giving like speedy receivers free release.
man.
That's a touchdown almost waiting to happen, and it happened a couple of times this season. But some people kind of were pointing to like other players that also struggled as well. But hey, the reason why he left the team is because something happened behind the scenes. It wasn't just a
Yeah,
matter of him just not playing well. I think he just, I don't know, maybe he didn't want to be a part of the team. Maybe obviously there was reports that the Raiders were thinking about cutting him before the season. We talked about this before, but yeah,
yeah.
it just sucked that it ended that way. That being said, let's move on. Another signing, Brandon Facyson. Like, where is this
Who?
dude? Who?
Who
Yeah,
was that?
exactly.
Who
Who
was
who
that?
who who is that? Hey, and by the way, salute to Raider Nation Live. My guy, Dirty, man, appreciate you coming through. Dirty Low, I should say. Appreciate you coming through and showing some support, man. And I'm gonna go hit up the chat real quick and see what they're talking about, man. A lot of people pulling up. Appreciate everybody coming through.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
B Al says, he says, how long is his deal with us? Who are you referring
Um,
to? Are you talking about
I'm assuming you're talking about Brandon. But it's Robert Spillane is my assumption.
2 years? 2 years. Two
Yeah,
years. I think was it 11 mil? I think it was 2 years, 11 mil.
I believe it's something there in that range. Something in that range. And the Steelers wanted him back. They just weren't willing to pay that much for him.
Mm-hmm. And let's see, man, we got people pulling up, man. D Menace, another one of my mods, man, has a public service announcement. He says, go ahead and go over to Severe Raiders channel and go ahead and subscribe to my guy. As you can see, this is our second or third show, man. Hey, man, I like chopping up football with guys like Severe and Severe. You guys got to support him. He's an up and coming Raider content creator. So go ahead to his channel and
Appreciate it,
subscribe
man.
to his channel and like his videos as well. You know what I mean? As well as mine. Hey, I got to do the
Yes.
the got to put the
Yeah.
ping sound. I got to do that every now and then and remind y'all to go ahead and like the video, man. So we keep coming back with
Yes.
this content. But let's see. Yusuf Airline, appreciate you coming through. He says Peters was out to get the check only. He did not care. Yeah,
Man.
man, it didn't
I,
seem
I,
like it,
and I,
but it's
yeah.
hard to say, bro. It's hard
I,
to say.
I, I hate to say that about him, just because, like as Pharaoh alluded to, he's like a Raider. He's a guy that's from the Bay Area. He grew up a Raider fan. His pops was dyed in the wool Raiders fan. Wouldn't even wear none of his jerseys because they weren't Raiders jerseys.
That's
And so
true.
for him to go out, yeah, for him to go out like that, man, I just hate for that to happen, man. But like that dude was just. Yeah, man, he was out there getting toasted, man. Like every Sunday, he was getting, and sometimes Mondays, like he was out there
Yeah.
getting cooked.
But going back to we hit up Spillane, hit up Marcus Peters. We're not going in order, right, guy? Like we're not going in order. And I know we hit up Marcus Peters, who was a signing at the end of literally during training camp. But cornerback Brandon Facyson was signed a second time. He was signed with the Gus Bradley defense. Uh, Josh McDaniels, Dave Ziel came into town. They opted not to bring him back. He goes to the Colts for a little mini vacation, and now he's come back to the Raiders. But he hasn't played. I don't think he's played a regular season game this year.
He has
I'm not
not.
sure if he.
He's been on IR. Matter of fact, he went on IR uh to bring Josh Jacobs back. So when we made the move to bring Josh Jacobs back into the fold, I believe subsequently Brandon Facyson, because we were above the roster threshold. So subsequently we ended up putting Brandon Facyson on injured reserve, and we ain't seen dude since. Like I haven't heard an
So,
update on him. Like this is like remember when we had Hugh Jackson and Hugh Jackson kept saying like, oh, Darren McFadden, he's close.
right.
Maybe next week. Like I ain't even heard that about Brandon Facyson. I think people stopped asking about it at some point because they were just like, you know what, we might not see this dude.
And Brandon Facyson, so far, we'll just put him as a miss. You know what I mean? Marcus Peters was a miss. So far, we're 1 out of 3. 1 out of 3.
Uh,
Another guy, you kind of guys can see him on the screen, is DeAndre Carter, wide receiver. It's another guy like, hey,
who?
hey, I don't think he's missed a game this year. He's the special teams guy. He's the guy that returns kick. He's a wide receiver,
Yeah,
but he's shown that he doesn't really have strong hands. He like during the
yeah,
game, like he's dropped a few passes. He hasn't really made the impact that we thought. Now, I'm not even just what we thought. I think the Raiders thought he was going to make a bigger impact because you could see how they were trying to incorporate him in the offense early on with a couple of those plays with Trey Tucker, which now Trey Tucker's pretty much taken a lot of, would you say, talking a
exactly.
lot of his offensive snaps?
Basically,
Yeah,
basically.
pretty much, right?
Uh, yeah, pretty much. I mean, they brought DeAndre Carter in here for his return ability and for just to add a speed element to the team. And at this point, I think the only thing keeping him, I don't know what's keeping him on the roster, to be honest with you, because he hasn't really made much of an impact in the return game. But damn sure he made an impact in the receiving game. As you said, basically Trey Tucker has supplanted all the offensive snaps that would, basically go to him have been going to Trey Tucker. So, like, I don't know why we're still even playing him outside of just the return stuff, and if he's not really making an impact there, I'd rather just give somebody else an opportunity back there in a return game. If we're still trying to win games, hell, I'd bring up Wilkerson or bring up Keelan Cole. I'd rather have somebody else out there, as part of the receiving core than DeAndre Carter, because he's been a huge, huge miss.
Huge miss. Damn. Okay, so that's 1 out of 4, and a miss basically, if y'all don't know, is just where's the impact? We're just looking for the impact. Are they making an impact on this team somewhere? It don't got to be 100 catches, 2,000 yards rushing, whatever the case. It just, are you making an impact on the team? Spillane obviously is. Peters, he did have that interception return for a touchdown, but other than that, we haven't really seen as much as we wanted from Marcus Peters. Brandon Facyson obviously hurt. Carter hasn't been the guy that we expected in a return game. Special teams, offensively, they thought he was another speedy slot guy that they could probably take advantage of mismatches on the football field. He hasn't been that guy. He hasn't been really strong as far as catching the ball out there. And let's go to the biggest. I think the biggest guy, and you can see him on the screen right now. The biggest free agent signing. I think it was the first signing that the Raiders did. McDaniels, shout out to McDaniels, wherever you at. His guy, Jimmy G, Jimmy Garoppolo. This one was a huge, huge miss, an expensive miss,
Yeah.
because the Raiders are would you say the Raiders are gonna probably cut him or try to get out this contract? Try to get I forgot what it's called. What is that where they kind of spread out the cut within two
Oh
years.
yeah.
It
Yeah.
happens
Yeah.
in June. I think it's like that June 1st
Like
cut.
yeah, the post June designated as a post June first cut.
He might
Um,
have to be that guy. He might have to be that
I,
guy because he's
I,
too expensive, man. He's too expensive to have on this team.
I, I think it that really all depends. It really all depends. It depends on what we want to do at the quarterback position. I don't think Jimmy G will ever see the field for the Raiders again, barring some type of injury. But if you look at our cap situation, like Devontae Adams' contract is about to blow up. If we keep Antonio Pierce, we might end up bringing back Josh Jacobs. So, and then there are some other people that are going to probably want to get paid, and we also have to fill out this roster via free agency once again because we signed a lot of guys to 1 year deals, and then we have a whole new regime in, so they're going to want to bring their guys in too. So it depends on how much dead money there is. You may just end up restructuring his contract again to give us some cap relief and just keep him on as a backup. I think he's a guy that he's a team player. He's good in the locker room. Players seem to like him. It's just that once he touches the field, he's just trash. So it's he's done. But though that kind of contract cutting him, that could hurt us very badly in terms of cap space and dead money. So if we're going to bring in a rookie quarterback, then it might just be easier. You want to designate a certain amount of money to the quarterback position anyway, and
Right.
his contract isn't so much so that where you have to get rid of it. But like I said, there's a lot of variables involved. But he was a huge miss, man. A
Well, I mean,
huge,
he's man,
huge miss.
he's getting paid. What is he getting paid? Like 30 mil next year or something? And he's gonna be. Is he not even gonna play? I don't think he's gonna play with the team next year. He
Yeah,
might get cut. But yeah,
I don't
like
think he's gonna play. He might get
we
cut.
can all agree this was a huge miss. Like it's and
Yeah, man.
whoever made that decision, if you hearing the tea leaves out here in these the Twitter streets, it was all McDaniels. It's all
Man.
McDaniels' fault. It had nothing to
Yeah,
do
man.
with Dave Ziegler, but I don't know how true it is.
At all.
People, it is what it is, man. Take it for what you want. But at the end of the day, that regime made a decision to sign Jimmy G, and it did not work. So literally, only and we're not gonna go through every signing because some of these players didn't even make the team. So we're not gonna go through every signing.
Exactly.
But like, so obviously Jimmy G didn't work. Brian Hoyer, I didn't understand the signing, and I still don't. It is what it is. It was more of a McDaniel's comfortable in his system type guy. I get it, but it just like
I
man, he just took valuable snaps away from Aiden O'Connell. So let's be honest.
I understood the signing. I just don't think the way they executed the plan was the proper way to execute it. Like Brian Hoyer should be been there just strictly as a player coach.
Insistent
Players
coach.
and
He should have been
but
on the
no, see, but
assistant
see,
coach
see,
role.
but see, see that's the thing where players have different relationships with other players. So there's a relatability there that you're gonna have with the player because you're one of the guys. You're gonna the coaches. It's like even at work, right? At work, there's like the management, then there's the normal people, and every job has that one employee that when they get in there, like, hey, we're gonna send them to Bob and let Bob train them because Bob's been in this position forever and he knows all the ins and outs and all the tricks and he's the designated trainer. So that's kind of what his job was. You can get that done with management, but there's not that same like connection there as you'll have with the player. So that's essentially what his job should have been. Now, what they end up doing with him was making him the backup and taking valuable snaps, as you said, away from a developmental quarterback in AO4, which they shouldn't have done. It should have been like, hey, you know what, Brian, this is your job. AO4 is potentially our future or a guy we want to be part of our future. Your only job is to get everybody else comfortable in the offense and coach this young man up. And they didn't do it that way.
So would you say would you say that's a miss?
Now, it's still a
It's a
miss.
miss.
Yeah,
It's still a
it's a
miss.
miss. Yeah, it's
So
a
so
miss.
so like, hey, so far, man, like I said, we haven't gone through all of. We're not gonna go through all of the free agent signings because some of these guys didn't make the team, so we're not gonna even count them. They're disqualified from this. We're just talking about players that made the team, that are free agent signings, and we're just looking back and seeing like, did it work out? You know what I mean? And so far, Spillane is the only guy that we've talked about that actually made an impact on this team where we're like, you know what, we need to bring this guy next year. He needs to come back. Obviously, he signed a 2-year deal in the offseason, so he will come back. Uh, tight end Austin Hooper
Yeah.
is a miss, or
I don't.
or I don't think it's a miss though.
I want to say it's a miss. I don't say it's a miss. It's just um, it's a whatever signing. He's a he's just he's easily replaceable. He's not a guy where we have to keep him. He's not a guy where I'm like, if he was brought back, I would be opposed to it. He's a guy that's whatever. We all understand, Mayer is a feature of the Raiders at the tight end position. So essentially, Hooper was just there to be almost the same role as Brian Hoyer, but actually like contribute. He hasn't really contributed a lot, contributed a hell of a lot more than Brian Hoyer, but he still really hasn't
A lot
contributed a
more.
lot himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, a hell of a lot more. I mean, Brian Hoyer was well outside of the Patriots game. Is that's the game he came in and won for us?
Mm-hmm.
Outside the Patriots game, Brian Hoyer has basically been a net negative. I think Hooper has been like neutral. So it's I would be fine with bringing him back. I don't know if they will or not. Like I said, that they might end up going younger. I think Horsted is a guy that the previous regime liked. I don't know how the current regime feels about him. He may be a guy that they want to elevate and let he's cheaper and let Hooper walk. So it's kind of a whatever to me. I mean, hit or miss. It's it's neither here nor there.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think it's a complete miss. 'Cause sometimes you got to think about expectations. He's been that veteran presence. He's had catches here and there. He's had some cool. He's had an okay year. I mean, if your expectation was for him to put up numbers, obviously it's a miss. But if you're saying he's a veteran presence, he's helped with the development of Michael Mayer, which we can see, like he's
Yeah,
developing, and slowly but surely Michael Mayer is going to be the. I think he's probably is he starting now at this point? Has he taken
yeah.
a starting role? Because I know this
I, I,
coaching
I
staff was
thought
kind of
so.
like bringing Michael Mayer slowly into the offense. But
They're doing weird stuff. There be games where they started two tight ends, so technically both Hooper and Mayer would start. So it'd be like Devontae, Jacoby, and Michael
yeah,
Mayer and Austin Hooper's will be like the starters at the skill position. So it kind of depends.
okay. Well, hey, we're not gonna say that's a miss. We're not gonna say that's a miss.
Yeah,
Um,
that's not a miss.
s-
We'll
s-
we'll be
s-
charitable.
so
Tis the season.
we'll say it's two out of. Let's see. So far is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 2 out of 7. Two
For
out
the
of
said,
seven.
whew,
2 out of 7. Marcus Epps.
bro.
That was our second signing. After the Jimmy G news came out, he was kind of like the next day. We end
Yeah,
up signing Marcus Epps from the Eagles, safety, strong starters. Our starting strong safety. Is he healthy? I don't. We got to look at the injury report this week. I think he got
yeah,
banged up last game. But would
yeah.
you
He did.
say he's been a hit or a miss?
I like the signing. I would say hit is a very strong word. I'd say it was a solid signing. He's immediately come in and been a leader on the team. He's a guy that I think he's kind of elevated the play of Trevon Merrick. The defense as a whole is playing better, despite the struggles of one Marcus Peters. Even the secondary has looked you know, on the back end, they haven't looked horrible. And I
Right.
think that's in large part to his ability to get a grasp of this offense or this defense rather very quickly and kind of disseminate the information to everybody else and get everybody else on the same page. And like I said, Trevon Merrick is having the best year as a pro he's had, and I think that's in large part due to his relationship and friendship he's built with Marcus Epps. So I would say that's a solid signing. I would
Yeah.
put that in the hit category.
Yeah, I don't think safety has been a liability this year. I feel like Morik has played well. I thought Marcus
Yeah,
Epps, yeah, I mean he's not like getting interceptions left and right, forcing fumbles, right? But I think
yeah.
he's been solid.
He ain't Jesse Bates,
Um,
but he's
and
yeah,
and I think that was talked about in the offseason how like the Epps Morik relationship has been pretty strong, and it's been really
yeah,
helpful for Morik, especially him having a good year this year. So
yeah.
I think that's a
Thanks.
hit. In my opinion, I think it's a hit. So that's three. So three out of 8. 3 out of 8. And we're just gonna round it out by we'll just say Adam Butler, John Jenkins, and Jacoby Myers. Is this gonna be a hit or miss
I
in
think
that
all three of
order?
those guys are hits. I think
All
all
three
three
of
of
those
those guys
guys
are
are
hits.
Okay,
I
okay.
think I think Jacoby. I think that's probably our biggest hit. If we had more confident quarterback play, I think Jacoby Myers would be having a even bigger year. I think he's been I mean, it's well recently since Josh Jacobs has picked it up. I would say maybe Josh Jacobs is our second best offensive player now. But for most of the year, Jacoby Myers was clearly our second best offensive player, and in a lot of games, he was our best offensive player. So I think that was probably our best signing. John Jacobs and Butler, they both provided a veteran presence inside. I think our defense as a whole has been better than it previously had. I think that's in large part due to their play. And I like both those signings. They're both long in the tooth, so I don't know if they're long for this team, but I like those signings. I think all three of those are hits.
So that's what? That's 6 out of 11, basically? You're basically saying you said all three of those players are hits, so that's like 6 out of 11. So would you say that's a successful free agent? Now looking at it, you're like, oh, 6 out of 11?
Mm, I
That's
wouldn't say successful because I think so much of this free agency class is weighted on the quarterback position because that was the biggest position we had to. So that Jimmy miss that counts for like five misses like that that set us back. Like that set us back a lot. That set us back a lot. So I think if this team had better quarterback play, we'd be in a much better position. So just off the strength of that Jimmy move alone, I cannot. And then like at the Marcus Peters signing as well, I don't think we really had a real solid playing at cornerback. We threw a lot of spaghetti against the wall, kind of seeing what would stick with Duke Shelley and all these other people, and none of that really worked. So I think we had deficiencies at defensive tackle, cornerback, and quarterback, and the only one we really did an okay job of addressing was defensive tackle. So no, that I think that really counts against us.
it's interesting that you said defense tackle. You said some of the players are been a hit, but early on,
Yeah,
early on, it was kind of a struggle as far as pass rush.
yeah,
But Bilal Nichols has kind of come on as of late. You're starting
yeah.
to see some players kind of make some plays. They're taking advantage of the one-on-ones that's been created by obviously Max Crosby. But all right, well,
No,
okay, 6 out of 11. All right, all right.
yeah, man.
It's not too
We've
bad.
seen
It's not too
worse.
bad.
We've
Yeah,
seen
yeah,
worse.
for real, for real. We've seen worse. So let's go. Let's move on. Let's go to the draft now. We in the draft, and the
Yeah.
2023 draft started off by Tyree Wilson. What do you think so far of Tyree and his outlook?
Whew.
I
So
don't want to
man,
say. I don't want to say.
as every,
I don't want to say hit or miss though. I don't want to say hit or miss.
yeah, nah. I don't want to say hit or miss. I think like I said, I was not happy with the Tyree Wilson pick. I know there were a lot of people in Red Nation that were very happy with that pick. It like my dream scenario, right? My two dream scenarios were that if somehow CJ Stroud fell to us, we could take CJ Stroud, or if somehow Jalen Carter fell to us, we can take Jalen Carter. And somehow the consensus best player in the draft, the best defensive prospect that's come along in several years at a position of extreme need fell in our laps. And we took an injured defensive end on the team at that time where we had two defensive ends, or so we thought, in Chandler Jones and Max Crosby.
Yeah.
Uh, and he's been underwhelming. He's been underwhelming. I said that after we drafted him, underwhelming, still underwhelming. People say he's a year away, but it's like I was hoping to see more out of him his rookie year, and I just haven't seen much of anything outside of that one great preseason snap he had against the Cowboys, where he still didn't get a sack. He just pushed the guy really far. But other than that, I haven't seen a single Tyree Wilson highlight.
Severe. I don't think there is any chance that the Raiders are going to draft Jaden Carter. Even though I knew that he was the best player on the board, I knew
Yeah,
it was a perfect need. I knew the Raiders are probably going to regret it, but there is no chance they're going to draft him. Like he literally had
yeah,
some type of DUI, drag racing type of situation, and Henry Ruggs
yeah,
just happened in the community of Las Vegas. So I think
yeah,
to me, it's not going to come out. I don't, no one's really talking about it like that. But you know that was a Mark Davis call right there. That was Mark Davis
Yeah,
saying,
yeah, no,
no, that's not happening.
definitely.
I'm sure Ziegler and McDaniels can see like this dude is super talented, but
I
they just
mean,
didn't want
who
they didn't want
couldn't?
to take that
Who
risk.
couldn't?
Yeah,
Yeah,
facts.
and that's a shame, man. That's a shame.
Yeah, but going to Tyree, I think it's kind of been like it's kind of been rough because early on, like everybody was on him as far as his like get off the line. It was super slow, but he's kind of gotten better. You can see him progressing, but then he's kind of hit that. I don't has he hit that rookie wall? Because we haven't really. I felt like he was getting
I
better and better
mean,
every game, but then like I don't know. He does have a sack and a half so far in the season for whatever that's worth, but remember that injury. I don't think they were expecting too much from him this year. I just don't think so. I think with that injury that he had, you could tell like he's not 100% healthy, and hopefully next year he comes back and he has a pass rush move other than bull rush. You know what I mean? Like,
at
and
least
then
one.
the benefit is his teammate is Max Crosby. Think about that. He has
Yeah,
Max Crosby as his teammate that he can just soak up all that knowledge that he's built up with a successful career up until this point with Max. So he has resources around him. Like he sees it every day with Max because he's leading by example. So I'm still hoping. I'm not gonna shut the door on Tyree Wilson, but like
no,
like
no.
Jalen Carter, like he's probably gonna be the best player out that draft for sure. Like it's just.
Oh, I mean, CJ Stroud would be the best player out of the draft. Jalen Carter would
Oh
probably
yeah,
be a
yeah, yeah.
close number
Because
two.
is it because he's a quarterback? Is it because he's a quarterback?
Not even because he's a quarterback. I think, I mean, there's the CJ Stroud is a legit top 10 quarterback already. He was a legit MVP candidate. I think if CJ Stroud win like last week, if CJ Stroud leads that comeback and the kicker hits that field goal, I think he's squarely in the top position to win MVP as a rookie on a team that was picking number two overall. So it's like to go from number two overall to like almost, I think they would have been in first place in the division and you potentially win the MVP. I think he's clearly the best, going to be the best player out of this draft. I think Jalen Carter will be a
But
close number two, just because he's so dominant. He's so dominant.
you see what I'm saying? And every game that everybody watches when the Eagles play is like this dude is destroying everybody in front of him. It's a grown
Everybody,
man going.
man.
It's like it's a grown man going against little children. Like he's taking over. He's dominating every time he has a chance. So yeah, but I think everybody always just assumes that the best player is always a quarterback because they always have the ball in their hands. It's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
QB position, whatever. But do you think
yeah.
you know what? A random question. Do you think who do you think the best player in your opinion? Who's the best player in NFL history? Like, is it a
Best player in
quarterback?
NFL.
Is it a quarterback, or do you
The
think it's another position?
the two best players in NFL history are Lawrence Taylor and Jerry Rice. That's one and two. That's
Because
for
they
me. I mean, like after that, I don't care who you put after that. It's Lawrence Taylor and Jerry Rice are the two best players in the history of the NFL, in
right,
my
right.
opinion.
Damn, yeah, Jerry Rice. Like some of his numbers, you can't even touch. Like I don't think any receivers go. But you never know because this is a passing league, and the way they're kind of like, they're making the rules, making for offenses nowadays. So you never know. Especially look at
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill. I think Tyreek Hill might even break the record that Calvin Johnson got the record for most yards in the season, right?
I believe he has it. I believe he
Let,
has it. Yeah, I think
let me look
believe
that up. I
Kevin
want to
Johnson
see.
has the record.
I'm gonna look that up. Tyreek Hill.
Kevin Johnson has the record. Tyreek was on pace to break it, but no, Calvin Johnson did it in 16 games. So a lot of people are saying like it don't count if he does it in 17, unless he does it in week 16, that it really don't count to them because he had the extra game. So, you know, Kevin Johnson was doing it like, like being triple teamed on every play. People knew Calvin Johnson was getting the ball and they just couldn't stop.
Let me see what he's doing so far. So right now he has 93 receptions and pretty much 1,500 yards and 12 touchdowns.
He can do it.
Man,
He can do
and
it.
look,
He'll
how
probably
many
do it.
games left? How many games are we? We're at like what, like 4 or 5 games left? 4 or 5 games,
Yeah, I want to say, yeah, yeah.
bro. He can get to 2,000 yards. he has a realistic chance like to get to 2,000 yards, which has never been done
Yeah.
before. It's crazy. But let's move on to the second round. Second round, Michael Mayer. I think this is I'm gonna call it a hit. I know we were early on. We said
Yeah.
it's kind of too early to say hit or miss, but I think Michael Mayer he looks legit. Like he looks like he's gonna have a future at that tight end position. He's gonna be making plays.
Yeah.
It's just incorporate him in the offense. Like we need someone. That's why that OC position, and we're gonna get into that as well. Like we're gonna get into that.
Mm.
We're gonna run through this, and we're gonna get into like the head coach and the all the different types of scenarios there could be for the Raiders. But Michael Mayer, I think is definitely is a hit. It's a pick at round 2. I don't. Would you have taken him in the first round? Like, would you have traded? Because I know Ziegler kind of said, and there was rumors saying like he would have traded. Would you have traded up for Michael Mayer though? If it ain't
I
a quarterback,
personally,
if
I personally would not have, especially on this team where we had so much need defensively. I
hmm
would not have traded up for him. But we made the assumption that he was going to be heavily utilized in this offense just because of what Josh McDaniels has done in the past with tight ends, and that there was a huge learning curve there with Michael Mayer. He spoke to it himself, and after he had like a really nice game, he said that he was just starting to figure things out, and everything was starting to come together for him, and he really struggled early on, just learning the offense and knowing where to be.
hmm
He's made improvements as a blocker, so I personally would not have traded up for anything other than an impact defensive player. And so I wouldn't have traded back in the first round for Michael Mayer. But where we got him, I think we traded up in the second round to get him, which I don't have a problem with because he
right,
was a first round talent that we were able to get in the second round.
right. So Michael Mayer, so far so good. I love that pick. And then we got Byron Young in the third round. Now this one we were laughing about. We're like I was telling you when we are doing mock drafts last offseason, Byron Young was like literally available like in the later rounds, like fifth, sixth round, maybe some mock drafts even seventh. Like he wasn't like projected to go in the third round. So this was
At
definitely
all.
like a desperation pick. And did they trade up to get to pick Byron Young or was
They did trade. They traded up to pick Byron Young. So man, I wanted Jalen Hyatt, and I kind of know after we had already drafted Michael Mayer, kind of made it less likely that we would go offense again, especially when we had so many needs defensively.
mm-hmm,
But if we would have picked Jalen Hyatt there, that is, I mean, we see what he's doing now. I think he was easily the best player, regardless of a position left on the board. And the fact
mm-hmm,
that we reached for a guy in Byron Young, who, like I said, so far he has not been an impact guy. This is rookie year. DTs are usually one like the lowest like hit rates in terms of when you draft them. Like they usually don't, like a lot of those guys don't really hit. So um, and a lot of those guys are late bloomers as well. So we'll kind of see what it turns into, year 2, year 3. But thus far, it's been a very, very bad draft pick in my opinion, especially considering,
it's early, man.
we had
It's
the
it's
opportunity to
it's
get higher.
it's early, and let y'all know, man. Hey, we're not saying that these players are not going to be anything in their career. We're just saying like so far, like what have we seen? Like, have we seen anything where we could like, oh man, we're excited about their future? Byron Young is
He
looking
hasn't been
rough, but
active, man. He's hardly
he's
been
been
active
active.
at
Yeah,
all.
he hasn't even played. I think they gave him an opportunity. I think early on, like he was active on the
Yeah,
roster, but I guess at the end of the day, you got to make plays, and the best players got to play, and he's been inactive. Let's move on to Trey
yeah,
Tucker. When they made the pick, I was like, "Come on, bro! Like this dude, he's how big is this dude? Like,
yeah,
you know what I
man.
mean? Like he got shorter arms than Jacoby Ford, slower than Jacoby. They're talking about his speed. A
Yeah.
lot of the people talking about his speed. I'm like, did he run a 4.2? I mean, when you're running a 4.3, 4.4, like at the end of the day, you're kind of like you're being super
You
picky.
facts.
Yeah,
You
but
facts.
at the
Yeah.
end of the day, Trey Tucker, he hasn't been that bad. I actually thought like
No.
he's better than I thought he was. Like I didn't think he was gonna be as good as he has been with the Raiders because he's made some plays when they've done those trick plays. He's caught some deep balls. He hit the problems with his hands early on in preseason haven't been really an issue during the regular season. So
Not
he's
really.
cleaned.
No.
Yeah, he's cleaned that up. So he's gotten better as a player. And I think he's going to continue to get better. But what do you think of Trey Tucker?
I think the problem with Trey Tucker is that, people put a lot of expectations on Trey Tucker. I didn't like the pick. Like I said, I wanted
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Hyatt earlier on. I even
Yep.
wanted his teammate over him. I forgot his teammate's name. His teammate was the better player at Cincinnati than he was. So I wasn't really happy with the pick.
Was it a slot
You
receiver
know,
or outside receiver?
he's both. He's both. They're both guys that can kind of do a little bit of both. Most people had the team. I forget the teammate's name. I forget his name. It
Yeah.
escapes me. But most people had him going before Trey Tucker, and then we drafted him, and people like saw how fast he was, and they're like, "Oh, he's our Tyreek Hill." And I was telling people from the jump, like, we're lucky if he turns into Dante Hall. Like, if he turns into Dante Hall, I'm over the moon happy about it. And thus far, he's been much less than even that. Has he exceeded my expectations? I guess so, but I had almost no expectations for him at all. So for him to exceed them, it didn't take much. So I don't think this is a good draft pick in my opinion, especially as a third round guy. Like, you should be getting like really impactful players in the third round, and I wouldn't consider Trey Tucker as a very impactful player in his rookie year. I don't project him as a future starter for this team. To be honest with you, I think he's a guy that's going to be a gadget guy at best, in my opinion. Maybe a future returner, but I don't think he's going to be like a stalwart in this offense. But I hope I'm wrong about that because he is a Raider, so I'm always rooting for Raiders.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And Raider Pete says Mayer was the biggest hit of the draft. Just need a guy like David Shaw, who I mentioned a week before NBC did. Hey man, I'm gonna give you your flowers, man. You did bring up David Shaw before anybody else did. So I'll give you credit. I'm not sure if I'm excited for him as a head coach.
Yeah,
Maybe an OC. Maybe a possible OC. Who knows? Like, hey, if
yeah,
Harbaugh, comes back as a head coach, which I'm not saying that the Raiders should do, but if that's a possibility, he's a big name.
yeah,
Mark Davis like big names, and Harbaugh has a connection with David Shaw because I think he was his offensive coordinator at San Diego and Stanford. So, and
yeah.
obviously he went on to be a Stanford head coach. So there might be a connection in that way. I mean, who knows? But we'll see how that shakes out, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But let's move on. Jacorian Bennett, hit or miss so far. So far, it's still early. These guys got a lot to go, but so far, like, have they made the impact that you thought they're going to be in it? For me, Jacorian Bennett, I thought he was going to be a little bit better, but he's going through his rookie growing pains. The cornerback position is one of the tough positions to play. Like, you got to know so much out there, as well as I think for him, like I feel like he just gets beat off the line of scrimmage like way too easy. But his recovery speed is good. But you're in the NFL. I think he got away with it in college, but in the NFL, like he needs to learn how to like, slow down that receiver, man. Because
Yeah.
man, how many times we see late in the game where someone's beating him off the line of scrimmage and it's a deep play. I remember it happened, just random thought. Because you sent me a clip with the quarterback from the Patriots. If you
Oh, Mac
remember,
Jones.
Before Max Crosby sacked him, they almost had a big time play. Devontae Parker, the wide receiver,
Oh
he
yeah,
almost hit.
yeah,
Yeah, you remember that, right? And that
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah,
Jacorian Bennett,
yeah, yeah.
and there's been a little bit of examples of that like throughout the season. So, and obviously he
If
hasn't
they hit
got
that
like a
play, we lose that game too,
oh we
man.
lose that game. It's a whole different story, man.
Man,
It is what it is. But obviously,
yeah,
Parker dropped the easy one. The rest is history. Max Crosby wins the game. But yeah, Jacorian Bennett is a guy that like hopefully we can see some improvement because that cornerback position room needs to be. We need a guy out there. And
yeah.
that might be someone that we might actually target. That might be a position where we target in the first round. To be honest with you, in the draft. So
I,
if
I, I think. I mean, we need a quarterback in the worst way. We need a quarterback in the worst way. This is a deep quarterback draft. quarterback draft. I haven't really looked too much at corners thus far. I don't know. I know last year was a very good cornerback draft, and so we got one in the fourth. Jacorian was actually like my favorite draft pick. Like on draft day, that was the guy I was like, okay, like of all the
Yeah,
picks, like him and Mayer were like my two favorite picks. So
yeah,
I expected a
same
lot
here.
more. Yeah, I expected a lot more out of Jacorian, to be honest with you. He's a guy that fits the athletic profile of like the prototypical corner. Good size, good speed. Good hip movement. But in the NFL, it's all about technique. And if you're flawed in your technique, these receivers will make you pay. And I think that's where he needs a lot of schooling. And we were hoping that he would get that from a guy like Marcus Peters, which Marcus Peters doesn't have great technique, so that's like that. That's kind of the blind leading the blind there.
Mm-hmm.
But I still have high hopes for Jacorian. I think I have high hopes for Jacorian. I think he has all the ingredients. I heard he's a tenacious worker as well. So I think all of the ingredients for him to be a very good number two corner is there. I don't think he'll ever be a one, but I think he has all the capabilities to be a very good number two corner. So if you get that in the fourth round, I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that.
Right, right. That's all about expectations sometimes. Fourth round pick, so give him some time to develop. His athletic profile is similar to his teammate that went in the first round, Deontay Banks,
Yes, yes.
cornerback of the Giants, I believe. I think he plays for the Giants. But you mentioned a position that you wanted to prioritize in the first round, and that's the quarterback. And the next pick in the fourth round is Aiden O'Connell. What do you think of Aiden
Yeah.
O'Connell so far, man?
Yeah, man. Aiden O'Connell is a throwback to an era of football that no longer exists. I think I think if we drafted Aiden O'Connell in like 2003, we had something. Like, yo, man, we got something, right?
For real.
If we had Aiden O'Connell on the roster, instead of Andrew Walter, I think we draft Calvin Johnson, number one overall, right? It's like, but that type of football isn't played anymore, man. The best quarterbacks in the league have to be able to move. They have to be able to be a threat with their legs. They don't got to be runners, but you have to be able to threaten a defense enough for them to have to account for you.
Right.
And Aiden O'Connell does. Everybody knows where Aiden O'Connell is going to be for the most part. He's going to be sitting back there in that pocket. He's an accurate guy. He has pretty good arm strength. Smart guy. He's played a lot of football at Purdue. He's a little bit older. Aiden O'Connell should be like settling down. I don't know what his personal life is, but he's damn near ready to settle down and have some kids and
I
start a
think he's
family.
married.
Dude's
I think he's married. Yeah,
okay.
he's yeah.
Okay, yeah, dude's. I think he'll be 26 next year
Hmm.
already. Like I think Yannick Ngakoue is like 27, bro. So he like, think about that.
Damn,
Think
that's
about
crazy.
that.
And
So,
how long? How long has he been in the league? Like at least like 4 or 5 years.
he's been in the league six years, something like that. I want to say he's been
Damn.
in the league for a minute, man. So, like he's not no, he's not. Aiden O'Connell's not a young guy. I don't know how much better he can or will actually get. I think he will be a very, very good backup in this league for a long time. Be a guy that if you need him to come in and make some plays and in spot duty win you a game or he'll keep you from losing a game. I think he has that capability, but he's not a guy that I'm going to hand the keys to my franchise to. Like I said, he's throwback to a bygone era, man. Like he's a CD player. He's a very high level CD player, bro. Like, like
Damn.
I
Damn.
got I got no use for a CD player right now.
Damn, man. He coming for Aiden O'Connell. Hey, to be honest with you, I didn't love the pick when the Raiders made the pick, but I will say this: I've been surprised by Aiden O'Connell. Like I didn't think he was gonna be as good as he has. I mean, his accuracy, he was able to come in, make some plays, get some chemistry with some of the guys out there. I thought he's been pretty solid, and I feel like he's gonna be part of the Raiders solidifying that quarterback room.
Yeah.
Do I believe in him being the franchise quarterback? I haven't seen enough for me to say that. I like, you know what I mean? Like I haven't really seen that. I haven't seen where I'm like, man, this is going to be the Raiders franchise quarterback, unless like the next 4 or 5 games, he turns it on and he ends up going to ends up taking the Raiders to the playoffs, gets a
Yeah,
playoff win or even a deep playoff win, then I'm like, okay, we got some here. Maybe we got some
yeah,
here, you know what I mean? But that's a what if situation, and until that happens, we can't really talk about it. But for right
yeah.
now, I think, like you
I
said,
mean,
he's most likely probably going to be a backup. Our guy is probably in the draft somewhere, hopefully. But like you mentioned earlier, I think the league right now is all about dual threat quarterbacks, guys that can obviously pass the ball, but they can move around if they have to. And you could
yeah,
see that all across the league. You could only name maybe 1, 2 quarterbacks, 3 including Aiden O'Connell that are like not mobile that are
yeah,
starters. You know what I'm saying? We're not going to
yeah.
include Jimmy G because Jimmy G is not a starter. No, 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 no.
Nah,
He is not a starter. He shouldn't start for any team. And I feel
nah.
sorry for any team, any fan of any team
Ever
that
again.
got to watch
Ever
Jimmy
again.
G. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, but you know what? I'm gonna give props to Aiden O'Connell. I think he surprised me. I still think there he can get better. But hey, man, and he's gotten better too from that Chargers game up until now. I think he's gotten better. I think they've helped him out a lot by simplifying that offense. But at the same time, he's still making plays. I thought against Kansas City, he looked good. He was throwing dimes left and right against a Kansas City defense that's probably one of the best defenses in the NFL, which is crazy to say. Usually, when we talk about
Yeah,
Kansas City, we're talking about their offense. We're talking about Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, but the defense has been the elite part of their team. And he was able
yeah,
to make plays early on, but obviously, you know, I, Kansas City
I
found out where
mean,
they got
you
Patrick
know,
Mahomes. They're just a better team. It is what it is at this point.
yeah.
But
How
let's
many
round
points you
out
score in that game?
less than 20,
Exactly.
less than 20 points. But we'll get into that. We'll get into the who should be calling plays. Um, but let's finish it out right now. Look, the last 3 picks: Christopher Smith, safety out of Georgia; Amari Burney, linebacker out of Florida; and Nesta J. Silvera, uh, D tackle. What do you think of these guys? Like real quickly, we got Christopher Smith, Amari Burney, Nesta J. Silvera. Nesta, I feel like has gotten PT here and there. Christopher Smith, has he even been active? Has he been special teams? Maybe he's been on the field. I don't know. Amari Burney
Ah,
is like, who is that guy? You know what I mean? But I'm joking. I know who he is, but at the same time, like we just haven't seen enough of them to really know what
yeah.
type of player they can be for the Raiders.
I think the grade on all those guys, you get an INT. Bernie started one game. He wasn't horrible, but he wasn't really good. So it was kind of meh, and then he really hasn't played since then. I don't know if Chris Smith has been active any game that I can recall. I think Nesta was active that one game. And Nesta's most faint, like the biggest play he made was on Instagram, talking smack about Josh McDaniels. Like that's his most memorable moment as a Raider. And then he talked about him never being active for those guys, and then since then, Nesta hasn't been active again. So um, I think it's still INC on those guys. Those are late round guys. Some developmental guys. I was hoping we would see more out of Chris Smith because he was a very high IQ player for a Georgia team. He's one of the leaders on that team. So I was expecting to get more out of him his rookie year, but I think F just kind of made him not unnecessary to play. But the others guys kind of get an INC. I think they all have potential, but it's going to take a year or two for us to see what we really have on those players.
No, facts, 100%. And Raider Pete can't wait, man. They want to talk about the head coach candidates. Obviously, they've seen the name of the channel, the video. I put it as Gruden is back. Jim Harbaugh, head coach OC. We're gonna talk about it. But Raider Pete says, have you guys watched Shaw talk on draft panels? He's the most spot on. Always wanted him back in the silver and black. Hey, man, Raider Pete. That's his guy right here. David Shaw is his number one guy that he wants to coach for the Raiders. And you know, it might make sense that he's spot on too because he's around the college game. He's familiar
Yeah.
with a lot of the players, and that's one of like probably the benefits of maybe getting a coach from college too as well because they're going to be familiar with a lot of the different players, their skill set, how to use them, you know, like the talent level. Like they're familiar with a lot of different players. Guys like Jim Harbaugh, like who's a guy who's coming out of college, most likely he's probably going to coach an NFL team next year if you guys are paying attention to the rumors,
Yeah.
he's going to be familiar with a lot of the young guys. I don't want him to be the GM. See, I'm not against Harbaugh. You know what? I'll say we'll get into that in a little bit. But hold on, let's see. SoCal Sal says, "Damn, severe." I don't know. He must have
That
said
must be when I
something.
was talking about Aiden O'Connell. He's thinking that must be when I was talking about AOC. Yeah,
you
that's what I'm assuming.
you disrespected him. Raiders Pete says Aiden will be 26. I've never seen poise out of rookie QB before. Okay,
Mhm.
that's a positive comment right there.
I
J
mean,
Dog
the
209
man's like
says
30 years old.
he's almost 30, right?
Right.
J Dog 209 says biggest waste was Tucker and Tyree. Ziegler wanted Tucker only because he's from his hometown. That's the dumbest way to scout.
No J Dog. That's not the only reason. It's because he was from his hometown and he was a wrestler. Don't forget that. They kept
Oh
talking about his past as,
yeah.
oh, he's a wrestler. So like, yeah, what does wrestling have to do with football? Like, I don't care if he was a wrestler, bro. Can he play? And apparently he's not that good.
You don't think he's that good? You don't think Tucker's that good?
He hasn't proved he's that good yet. I mean,
I mean, he hasn't been bad. I don't
he's not
see
bad.
he's not bad. I'm not saying that like,
He's not
oh man,
bad,
this
but
but like it's all about expectations. I always bring that up. I always say expectations because like what is your expectation of Tucker? Slot
I mean, you
receiver,
draft the
right?
guy in the third. You know, you draft the guy in the third round. I'm expecting production. Like when you draft the, I mean, that's how I always told to look at it. It was like a guy in the first round. You're expecting him to be, the hope is that they turn into a Pro Bowl, all pro guy. A second round pick is the same. They're a borderline Pro Bowl guy. Third round pick, you're hoping you get a very good starter. I don't think Trey Tucker will ever be a very good starter in the NFL. I think he'll be, like I said, he'll be a gadget guy. He'll be a situational guy you bring in if you need some speed on the field, but I don't think he's ever going to be a guy that's like an every down starter in the NFL. So I mean, and so in
Yeah.
my opinion, if you don't get an every down starter out of a third round pick, that wasn't a good pick.
Yeah. Yeah. So we got done, we're done with the off-season update. We just wanted to look back like, hey, it's we're coming off a bye week. Obviously, we played the Vikings this week. And now we're talking about like the off season and like the players from the draft, from free agency and what they look like and if they made any impact. Because we want to take a realistic approach and look at some of the players because sometimes we have this misconception that if we have a lot of cap space and we sign all these players, the Raiders are going to be good. You know what I mean? But that's
Yeah,
not how many players did we say? What, 6 out of 11? And
yeah,
we were being generous with a couple because we said they were a hit, but
yeah,
there are it was a couple of role players. It wasn't like we signed a lot of players in free agency like that, but we
exactly.
missed on the big
Exactly.
ones. If you looked at like if the Jimmy G's, who else did we say that was a big miss in free agency? I think
Peters, Peters was a
Peters.
big miss.
It wasn't a big. I don't think it was a big miss,
I think
man.
just because that was our that's one of
It
our
was a
biggest
miss,
needs
but
in my
it was
opinion.
just
So when,
like
yeah,
like
but
if he was signed first day of free agency, then I would say it's a big miss.
yeah,
But he was signed in training
I
camp.
think I think he's a big miss because he's a starter. So like it's like, I mean, whenever he was signed, he's a starter. It's not like he was when we signed him to be a role player. He's a starter, and he was
Right.
hot garbage. So I think, and we didn't even bring up Van Rotten, who was another
Oh yeah,
another
yeah. That's
huge
another guy we
miss.
didn't. Yeah, yeah. Van Roten was supposed to,
That
but he was supposed to
yeah,
replace Alex Bars. Alex Bars was more of a run blocker. Van Roten was
yeah,
more of a pass blocker, but obviously he didn't run really. He didn't add too much in the run
one
blocking
block wasn't
department.
good.
Would
Yeah.
you think that's a fair trade, or do you think,
I
man? I don't
mean,
know, man.
it seems that just looking at the impact that just the replacement of Bars with Van Roten, or Van Roten with Bars has had. I think that I would rather have Bars and rather have Josh Jacobs doing what he did last year. I assume we brought in Van Roten to be a pass blocker to protect Jimmy, but Jimmy was trash anyway. So it's like, well, damn.
Yeah,
Now we kind of hurt ourselves in the run game to help a pass game with the quarterback that was trash. So I mean, but right now looking like Bars would be the better guy.
right, right. And let's see here. 1 second. Let me pull this up. But yeah, man, if you guys haven't already, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, hit that notification bell so we can keep coming back and making this content, as well as going to Severe Raiders YouTube channel and subscribing to my guy, and liking his videos, do all the things you need to do to support my guy. And so we can keep coming back, man. So we keep coming back and doing this, man. So let me pull up your social. People can see it on the screen, and if my mods, y'all can post the links. Appreciate it kindly. Hold up 1 second.
Appreciate it,
All right, all right, all right. So let's get to the main topic, man. Where everybody's been talking about it in
man.
in the chat. The nation's been talking about it. The head coaching candidates, man. And before we get into the
Yes,
candidates, let's talk about Antonio Pierce and Champ Kelly. Pierce, I
yeah,
think he's 2-2 so far as a head coach.
yes,
He started off 2-0. Obviously, he's lost two straight against the Dolphins and the Chiefs, but the Raiders haven't been embarrassed. You know what I mean? Against the Miami Dolphins, they pretty much played a tough game, but the same ugly part of this team reared its head. That offense was a liability out there. It wasn't able to get to 20. We can't get to that 20-point mark when it really counted.
yeah.
And would you put that on Antonio Pierce? Some will say yes, because at certain moments in the game where you needed to be aggressive, he wasn't aggressive. He tended to be more
Mm,
conservative. But
yeah.
then you look at the other side of it is, well, if he had he's not an X's and O's guy. He's a guy that has a team playing hard. He's a rah-rah guy. He's a leader of men, and he's doing that part of it. He just needs the X's and O's guy, which is the offensive coordinator, to be legit. He doesn't have that because he has a first time, OC in Bo Hardgree. So if you give this guy an OC, maybe you can see more wins. Maybe you'll see a better team. See a better product. What do you think it is with Antonio Pierce? Do you think he's done enough, or do you think he needs more time, or it doesn't even matter? We need a new guy up there at head
Uh,
coach.
I think he put himself into strong consideration for the job just based on his ability to build relationships
Mm-hmm.
in the locker room. I personally don't think he's done enough. I would, like I said, he would be part of the interview process, but if he's not the best interview, then I will go in a different direction. People kept saying the main problem on this team was Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels is holding us back. We have a new coach now, and we've done what Josh McDaniels did earlier in the year, and that's beat two bad teams that we were expected to beat. People point to this Miami Dolphins game. Oh, we played them so tough, but we still scored less than 20, and we still lost. And then we got up on the Chiefs like we did last year. Oh, we got up on the Chiefs, and then we scored less than 20 and lost.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so we keep giving out these participation trophies. AP coached under Herm Edwards at ASU, right? So you would think that a guy that coached under Herm Edwards would be more aggressive because Herm Edwards is known for saying, you do what? You play to win the game. So if you're being conservative down the stretch, are you playing to win the game, or are you playing and not to lose? Now remember, people were being critical of Josh McDaniels for saying he's playing not to lose, but now we give a pass to Antonio Pierce. So I mean, I'm not, like I said, I'm not giving no passes to nobody. If you're not getting the job done, then bring somebody else in here that will.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, but for me, I'm kind of on the side of like, all right, there's 4 or 5 games left. Give this man some time. every game that we've watched so far, the team has played hard. They've responded well to him. They obviously want him to stay on as a head coach. Um, Defensively, I feel like it's been the story of the season. It's been like it's been the surprise of the season. We didn't expect the defense to be playing this well, and it's not like they're playing lights out. There's some holes they can be exposed, especially by good quarterbacks. But they played well enough where you'd be like, man, like hey, Patrick Graham need to come back. You know what I mean? We need to add more talent to
Yeah.
this defense, and we could see it, getting better. But I think with Antonio Pierce, in my opinion, I think he just needs more time. Just give him more time and give him an OC. I think he needs an OC. Give him an OC. Bo Hargree, no offense to him, we saw some good things from him. I'm not gonna act like he's completely terrible, but he is a rookie OC. I just don't want him to be the guy when a rookie QB comes in and he's the guy that's trying to develop an offense. Like, nah, we need to get someone from experience. And come on, a lot of what they're doing, they're trying to clean up what McDaniels literally created, the problem that McDaniels created, and
See,
he made it. I know, and I know you're gonna be like, well, there were times that McDaniels called a right play and somebody was wide open.
no, I'm not. I'm not even gonna say that. I'm just gonna say that. See, we make these exceptions. So like, we were a poorly coached team for a long time that was subject to very bad decisions in the draft and very bad decisions in free agency.
Mm-hmm.
And we expected Josh McDaniels to come in and just instantly, you know, turn this team into a winner. And I think we set expectations too high. We had one okay season where we caught lightning in the bottle down the stretch of the year, where we beat a lot of, so-so teams, and a lot of teams in that particular year crumbled down the stretch. So we snuck into the playoffs and we played the Bengals tough again and still lost. And so people thought this team was better than what it was, but this team was built poorly on a poor foundation. We were a team that were full of, like I said, free agent guys that weren't really brought in through the draft and brought up through our system. And so a lot of those guys weren't going to work in under the new regime. So we had to replace those guys because they didn't work in the new system. So we
Right.
instantly got rid of those guys. We brought in new players. So we're giving some grace to Antonio Pierce, and I understand there's different circumstances, but essentially this team is going to be largely the same next year. So like, there's not going to be a whole lot of wholesale changes that he's going to be able to make to this roster in one off season. So like, he's going to essentially be coaching the same team. So is what he's doing now, is that enough to say that next year it'll be a whole lot different because we bring in different offensive coordinator? Maybe, but is he going to still be conservative down the stretch? Is he going to still not know how to manage the clock at the end of game situations, be poor with his challenges, poor with his timeouts? Like, all that stuff is going to change that in one off season. I don't know.
Right, but that's what you have to gamble on with a rookie head coach, is someone grown, like that's something that someone you. So you're saying that you're saying that part of a head coach responsibilities is either you got it or you don't. I think that's something that you can grow into. You know what I mean? Especially if you got
I
like a
mean,
main, like I don't think you can just become a leader that like.